Good day, everyone. Welcome to the live reaction show with myself, Steve Wyss, and Jack Wright, who just had his head in his hands off
What timing?
screen there. I know he doesn't want goals in this Sheffield United Newcastle game, and there's just been a second goal. There was a controversial opener, and now I've just seen it now. It's from a corner, not good marking at the back post. Not sure who's got his head on the end of this. Dan Burn, of all people.
Good. Go on, Dan Burn.
To Newcastle United. Jack, how are you doing? Aside from this current scoreline,
I was doing fantastically well until then, a couple of minutes ago. But no, superb, mate. Yeah, very good. Really excited about this show. One I've really enjoyed watching with you and a host of top handicappers, and hopefully I can step up to the mark and follow in their footsteps.
Ogie asks a very good question before we talk about this Sheffield United game. How has there been no goals in the Montpellier Rennes game so far? Very, very good question, because there's been chances at both ends. Terrible misses, Ogie. I know quite a few people who betted on over 0.75 or over 1 goals in the first half live. Very unlucky loser. We're still, I need over 2.75 in the game. So you're not dead, but I'm kind of expecting this to be a loser now. But the in-running goal line is 1.5. And I would get on that. I would get on the overs here. This looks like it could be like a 1-1 game, 2-0, probably to Montpellier, actually. But it's just one of those frustrating halves for over backers in France. It's just about to kick off the second half there now. As we go to the Sheffield United game against Newcastle.
Newcastle just going to say, Steve, you're a man. You've obviously identified this game as goals, and there's been chances. Are you a guy now that would go in again, or certainly this is one that you're going to back your own judgment for, having seen that first half?
Yeah, and welcome in Nico Leo as well. Thanks for joining us. You know what, I would go in again. Not every time, because sometimes you just know, say the first half there've been no chances, you kind of accept that you've called the game wrong. I've never got a problem losing a bet when I've definitely called it wrong. These ones get really frustrated, though. Really frustrated. Looks like there might be a penalty in the Sheffield United. I don't know what's going on here. There's a big incident with the referee. But yeah, I do not have a problem going in again and trying to almost get my money back. If the over 2.75 isn't going to cash, I'll cash the 1.5 and I'll break even on the game. Obviously, if you get it completely wrong, you're in huge trouble. It's not going to be, it's not penalty. It's probably just some sort of really big tackle, which I think Newcastle are not too happy about. Could even be a potential red. I don't know who it was. Number 19 of Sheffield United, whoever that is. But anyway, back to the Sheffield United game. Newcastle minus 2,500 in running. Draw is plus 1,400. Sheffield United 40-1 to win the game from here. In terms of goal lines now, we're looking at the likes of 3 or 4, 3.75 or 4 at the goal line. Yeah. If you were now betting in running in this game, Jack, bear in mind you were an under 2.5 man pre-match. Would you fancy under 4 goals here? There'd have to be 5 goals for you to lose that bet.
Yeah, and that would go against everything we were expecting going into it. Obviously, I sided with Sheffield United on a plus handicap here, thinking that Newcastle could edge it, possibly a draw. Sheffield United haven't lost by more than a goal at the start of the season, and they've been playing some tough sides, some big sides, haven't they? So Man City struggled against them. Spurs obviously left it till very, very, very late.
There is a goal. There's a third goal for Newcastle. They've had literally 3 chances and they've scored 3. It's Dan Burn again, I think.
My other selection was going to be Dan Burn hat-trick.
Botman.
Again, this is another thing that I'd suggest, is that Sheffield United defensively are a side that like the opposition to go wide and get the ball into the box, because they'll back their central defenders to be able to boom it away. Looks like they're meeting their match and some today.
I'm baffled by this, because I didn't expect Newcastle to have much about them. They had a really tough game in midweek. I know it was a few days ago now, but it all
stacked up. It all stacked up. And like I said, this isn't. I've seen these shows and there's been not a lot of action, is there? I'm glad I brought the action.
Any action here. I didn't expect anything. And we're getting goals every minute.
Brought the action. We didn't want any, and we got them at the wrong end. So
an inability to defend set pieces. But all right, this match hasn't gone how you wanted it to. But it has been a good week for you on the Bet Rivers EPL show. Yourself and Nigel Seatley have been combining really well. Nigel, I think, has he gone clean sweep on his picks this week on this show? Until this one, yeah. But also,
we've had a great week. We've had a good start to the season.
I do want to say also, you've been doing some correct score predictions on Instagram. I'm going to put the link now on the chat. Do hit us a follow on this Instagram account because we win. You had some great reels for EPL score predictions this week. I think you've already hit 4 out of 10, which was, I mean, that's a heck of an effort. Including the North London derby, Nigel nailed that one. You had some good leans on that game, didn't you? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I think we asked to say a couple of leans. Dan asked for a couple of leans, and Nigel's hit there, and I went for over 1.5 first half goals at plus money as well. So that copped. I wish I'd put that in as my selection. Really, to be fair, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But I like this. I did like this Sheffield United pick, but. Unless there's a big turnaround on my part second half, then I'm dead in the water there. But no, it's been a strong start. And the Instagram account, we decided we'd do a little bit of correct score action. So obviously gives people our ideas, what we think for each of the games during the course of the week. Very short, which is tough for both me and Nigel to do, of course. 20-second blast on each game. And obviously by us saying what we think the score is going to be, that opens up all the other markets. Who's going to win? Is it draw? Overs, unders, and both teams to score, all those kind of things, all in one 20-second bite size. So, and it's been a great start. Yeah, 4 out of 10.
Very good indeed.
Some decent odds as well.
I'll have to get in on that with. I'll give you one correct score or something in France and see if I can in the big game.
You're more than welcome.
We'll get RJ on it. We'll get everyone in on it. See if we can nail a correct score across the board. Premier League then. Newcastle now look in control in this game. Things can change. I'll tell you what I thought, because you coming on the show, I thought we'd do a little bit of futures chat on markets now. Are we 6-7 games in nearly? Manchester City, 100% record. There's still 4 unbeaten teams in the Premier League this early. Minus 250 to win the league. Liverpool have now moved into second favourites at plus 700 with Bet Rivers. Arsenal plus 800 and Spurs 30-1 after the North London derby today, 2-2 draw. Already Arsenal dropped points twice at home this season. Can they afford to do that when you're against this Man City machine?
You hit the nail on the head there. Normally you probably could. The first one you'd suggest was drop points given who they were playing and the game situation, obviously with the red card. North London derby this season at this moment in time would be classified as a tough fixture, but you just can't afford to drop anything against Manchester City because they're just relentless. They're ruthless. Again, closed the game out yesterday, 2-0 up, red card. Nah, that's it. That'll do us, and saw it out. So where'd you go with them? Look, you can't back them, and you can't take them on. So you've got to try and find some kind of angle. Both myself and Nigel, I know we were sweet on Liverpool at the start of the season. I think they were priced up with last season in mind a little bit, and Arsenal doing so well. So we're obviously on our point of view, we're quite pleased that Liverpool have started the season very well themselves and have moved into good shape. Yeah, so I've got some stats on Liverpool, which I've seen over the last 24 hours, and so you can't argue with them. Can't argue with them at all. So they've scored in their last 16 games, unbeaten in 17, I think it is now. So Salah's doing well, scoring goals, contributing, which people worried about him and that link to Saudi, how'd he be? So I think he's knocked that one on the head. And we could well be, look, you talk about it. Liverpool drew their first game against Chelsea, didn't they? And they won ever since. So I'll be in for another colossal battle between those two. They'll end on 90-odd points and it'll go to the wire because they're only 2 points behind.
I am actually on a personal ticket pre-season, Liverpool to win the league without Man City in the market. I think one of you guys might have had that in the Premier League outright show as well. It looked a good price to me. We'll talk about top 4 now. I asked this to every single person that's come on the live reaction show because this market moves every single week. Manchester City minus 10,000, Liverpool minus 278, Arsenal minus 278. It seems to be that Bet Rivers and the general market is presuming them three are going to be in the top four. I'm not 100% sure, by the way, because it is so competitive, but it should happen.
You got fears
Tottenham
of Arsenal?
now,
Is that obviously
minus,
not got
minus
fears
278. Minus
have you
278.
got fears on Arsenal? Do you think Arsenal will flop?
I just think it depends how deep they go in the Champions League, Jack, because it's really tough. I know they've been in Europe, obviously, the last 5 years or whatever, most years, but it's completely different Champions League football recovering. And at the moment, they've just had an easy one after PSV, and they've already dropped points after that. Now, when it gets in the deep stages after a really high intensity game, I know they've got a deeper squad now. They should be all right. I think they've done it. I think that the transfers they did in the summer was enough to keep them, second/third.
Yeah.
Certainly not enough to make them to get them the title, in my opinion.
No. Declan Rice took off at half time today, so there's obviously an injury problem with him there. So that will be interesting to see what that is. If that's a serious one, you'd possibly expect these odds to change again. If it's just a knock and he'll be back in a week or two, then not a massive problem. But injuries as always. I think where Man City have got it is that if they lose 4 players, they bring in 4 world-class players, and they can handle pretty much anyone going. Even Haaland being out, he didn't score towards the back end of last season, and they still kind of cruised it. So, I think the squad depth is key. The first 11s are quite close. Lose 2 or 3 players, and it starts to struggle. Brighton, another win for them today. So
tell you what, but just before it should have been 4-0. Callum Wilson missed a massive chance. Good save. Sheffield United just look all at sea. They look Championship level today. First time really since the opening day. But I don't know what. I mean, Heckingbottom is furious. You can see him on the bench here.
The only good thing about this is I'm on Heckingbottom to be first manager sacked. So
I was going to talk to you about the manager sack race soon, but going back to this top 4 market.
Yeah.
Tottenham now plus 150. Now, talking about them pre-season, I think they were like plus 300 or something.
Yeah.
Maybe more. Brighton are plus 175 for the top 4. Newcastle now into plus 175 as we talk live. Chelsea plus 225. I think
I'll lay that. If anyone wants that, let me get in touch with me. Drop me a DM, and I'm more than happy to lay that for you.
They're minus 125 to be top 6, Chelsea. I mean, I couldn't back that with stolen money, Jack. I really couldn't. Chelsea a minus 1,250 for the top 10. Is that even a banker?
No, it's not. It's not. There's a competitive section of teams in there. Like, we now roll them down, and I'm sure we could name 9, 10 competitive teams, and that would mean that at that price, you wouldn't be touching it.
Manchester United are plus 275 to finish in the top 4. Is that where the value is now? Because they've started a bit poor. All right, they got a win yesterday. Is it a case of they can rebound? We've seen teams before get off to a slow start and get back in that top 4 race. Yeah, exactly. So, I mentioned 5 teams there. We've ruled out Chelsea. Where would your money be? Tottenham, Brighton, Newcastle, or Man United for that final top 4 spot, if you would?
Yeah. So pre-season, I was fading Man United, but only to a certain extent, and I probably had them sneaking into my top 4 in 4th. I think he's kind of won a lot of the Premier League viewers over neutrals. Even, do you know what? A sign of a Tottenham manager that can get positive words out of Arsenal fans towards him, I think says it all, really. So I think how we're seeing at the moment, keep Maddison fit, keep Son fit. Son scoring goals again. Remember, he was the joint winner of the Golden Boot a couple of seasons ago. We'll have to go Son to do that this season, of course. But he's firing goals in now. He scored 5 in his last sort of 3 games. So keep those key players fit. But again, we mentioned it a little while ago. The strength in depth that they can call on doesn't come close to the others. The one thing, obviously, is no Europe for them. So they have got that opportunity. And they're out of the League Cup as well. So they'll have a clear week this week and into next week. All they've got to worry about this season is the league. And then when the FA Cup rolls round.
It's a huge advantage. I think, to be honest, that's where my money would probably go right now on Spurs.
What was the price on them, you say?
Plus 150 to finish in the top 4.
Right.
But there's a good case. I mean, there's a good case for quite a few in there. And, I don't think it's an absolute given that Arsenal and Liverpool will be in the top four.
I'd
They
probably say
should.
Man United, but nothing. I couldn't be backing them at the moment, purely on how they're playing and the turmoil that goes on that club week after week. You must be hating it.
Well, it's funny we talk about Man United now because Erik ten Hag is the third favourite in the Bet Rivers. Next manager to leave the post in the Premier League, the sack race, as we call it.
So it
Plus
is.
700 for ten Hag. Paul Heckingbottom is minus 200 favourite to be the next manager out. Sean Dyche, second favourite at plus 500. Then we go to Pochettino, and that catches my eye. I tell you, that catches my eye at plus 800. Right, and then we got the likes of Steve Cooper and Rob Edwards, who I think are pretty much loved by their fan base. So it would be difficult to see them out.
How about your man at Bournemouth at plus 1,800?
Yeah, I think they showed last year that they're quite ruthless in getting rid of Gary O'Neill.
Yeah,
where I'm just looking for O'Neill's price. I can't find it. Weird one, not on there.
He's not on there.
But he would be a candidate for me because Wolves were apparently absolutely horrendous at Luton yesterday, and
another good piece of news.
Marco Silva, could he be tempted by the Saudi League? Plus 1,600.
Well, who couldn't be tempted by the Saudi League? Fulham, they're kind of bobbing along, aren't they? They're not really pulling up trees. He's not, I suppose January will be the testing point there. Can they give him some love, some support? If not, then absolutely. Next vacancy over there, then possibly so.
Heckingbottom's no value at minus 200.
Not now.
Iraola that's the standout. Plus 18 to 1.
Yeah.
That's probably worth a proverbial nibble, isn't it?
Yeah. On the Premier League show this week, we talked about it to a little extent, and I think part of Nigel's reasoning for him going with Brighton and saying, look, the pressure's on there, and rightly so, that O'Neill wasn't shown that kind of patience. And if this was O'Neill in the hot seat this season, I think he'd be gone. It's only because they've changed the manager so quickly that he's getting a little bit of leeway. They spent, we've talked about this again, we're repeating it to a certain extent, but they've spent a lot of money for Bournemouth. Bournemouth aren't, those viewers who aren't used to kind of what Bournemouth are about. They're not the sort of, they get 10,000, 11,000 supporters in each week. That's all their stadium can hold. And they're not used to spending that kind of money, and they're putting some big bucks in, or they have done to support him. And at the minute, showing nothing on the pitch at all.
No, exactly that. Like I say, I think 18 to 1, you could do worse than having a look at him.
That's the one that catches my eye in that market right now.
I think so, Jack. Definitely. It's interesting to me how many big overreactions there's been in the Premier League this year. I mean, there's overreactions in every league, but it seems to happen more in the Premier League. Like Newcastle now, just presuming they're going to go on and win this game from here. Probably Monday morning. Then now, I can see the headlines. They're back on track. They're going to be a serious contender. All that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
it's like the goals in like the major leagues, isn't it? France 0-0 still. Montpellier,
Rennes. I've got to be honest. This has been a really poor start. The second half. There's not. Both teams are at walking pace. They had a refreshment break around about 25 minutes in the first half. I do wonder if they're suddenly having one of them late summer, early autumn heat waves on the south coast of France, because it's a little bit, been a bit walking pace to start the second half.
What time's our refreshment break here? I can't remember. What time do we schedule it in for? It's very warm in here. Very warm in here.
Well, I was funny enough, I was getting the refreshments in earlier, actually, Jack. I was at my local agricultural show earlier. You might have seen some tweets about it. I even did a video from the cattle tent.
You live the dream, Steve. You do. You do live the dream.
We win a cow. I was seeing all the prizes given out, and kind of like, it's all about the winning, isn't it? In these sort of shows, everything. And it's all about the winning here on that because we win. And I don't like losing, but I've got to admit I'm looking bad in that Montpellier game. I actually couldn't, based on the start of the second half, I now couldn't advise anything in terms of. In fact, if any, it looks like more under one goal would be. I can't believe I'm saying that.
It takes a lot for you to say that, Steve.
I wouldn't ever back under 1 goal. Never. It wouldn't happen. But it is probably the call just based on the gameplay. I'm going to talk to you about the lines now in the Sheffield United game because we're 1 more minute till half time. In fact, about 20 seconds from half time. We'll forget about the actual. Well, no, we won't forget about the full time result. Sheffield United are 150-1 on the nose for a comeback. Draws 50-1. More interesting is now the goal line. It's set at 4.5. Now, when you've already got 3 goals in the game at half time, is that just going to open it up now? Forget about what you're thinking pre-game. Have Sheffield United got to come and swing, or are they thinking goal difference? Just get out of here with not a bad loss.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'd say is sometimes when you see a halftime score like that, you go, oh, you get excited, or bettors get excited about the fact they go, we'll get another 2, 3, 4 goals in this second half. And quite often you'll see a game that's gone so one-sided in the first half, and then there's no action in the second half. Sheffield United might nick one back, but Newcastle have got no need or reason to go and we know that Eddie Howe's not really that kind of manager either. He's not that kind of manager that wants to go and put on a scintillating attack and display just for the headlines. He'll sign for 3-0 now and move on. That's a very good week for him, isn't it? 2 wins in the Premier League and a solid point away at Milan. So they've not, well, up until today, haven't played particularly well. So again, 5 goals is another 2 in the second half. If pushed again, I'd still be going under. But it's plus 100, so plus 100 for under 4.5.
Sheffield United are plus 105 to score in the second half.
We know they struggled up front. Obviously, McBurney suspended for this one. He's not a prolific scorer at this level, but he's a menace. He works hard and he's tall. And I wonder if that's played a little bit of an impact because they've got Cameron Archer up front. First season in the Premier League. He's obviously he's played bits and pieces for Aston Villa, loaned out to a couple of championship sides over the last season or 2, and now Sheffield United obviously took the plunge and paid money for him, and he scored. He looks a live wire and a goal scorer, but I do wonder if playing a lone furrow against these Newcastle centre halves isn't an easy task. We do know Newcastle can defend. They don't tend to, suffer too much. And you look at the result against Brighton, maybe, but Brighton are coming into that market now where you can sort of put their results and score lines in the same basket as Manchester City. There's a bit of a anomaly. Well, they don't really count when you look in the big picture because their games are so wide open and always so full of goals. I think they were the favourite again this week for the most goals in their game.
Well, this is the problem now, Jack. Like I said to someone pre-season. I said, as Montpellier actually hit the crossbar, that would have really opened up the game down the south coast there. I said to someone pre-season, back the overs blind in every Brighton game and you'll be well in profit. However, that's presuming the goal line's 2.5, 2.75. We're now looking at 3.5 higher goal lines for Brighton. And that's when you've got to decide how confident, because at some point inevitably they'll have games that have exactly 3 goals in them, and you're losing on the goal line if you go in the over. So that's what happens in football. Books are not stupid; they're cottoning onto it as well.
Absolutely right.
The value it feels.
And do you know who they got Saturday? Or
I don't actually know.
They're away to Aston Villa, another side that when they're at home, full throttle. The goal line is it's over 3.5. Is plus 120. For that one. So over 3.5 is the line set already for Villa versus Brighton.
As a rule, I don't really like taking 3.5 goal lines. I've had to take quite a lot more recently, though, in the whole of Europe, actually, Jack, because I think there is, let's be honest, in this sort of since the COVID era, there's been more goals around in general. Why that is, maybe added on time as well, more attacking styles. And goal lines have generally gone up, but sometimes there is value on the unders.
There is, sure. And we talked about it long and hard. Obviously, me and Nigel will always try and dig out an under where we can. But I think what we've seen, and we'll talk about the Premier League, but it's the case like Bundesliga goals have gone bonkers this season. But when you've got like Bayern Munich up against sides and Bochum and beating them 7-0, you're going to get massive amounts of goals in them. Again, I noticed that Freiburg's 0-0 at half-time today.
Another team involved in Europe. I think there's been a theme there. Quite a lot of teams involved in Europe this week, especially Thursday. it's not that they're doing badly. They've been involved in quite a few lower scoring encounters.
Such a tight turnaround. It's such, you looked at Man United. I was on the unders in Man United last night against the Tide because people saw the bare stats on Burnley and United games this season. But United needed a result there, a positive result. They've been away to Milan. They'd been away to Munich. Tough game. Obviously conceded goals, but they're coming back late. Little prep time. One thing that then Ten Hag would have needed to have done was just to say, look, we need to keep this tight. We've got to actually try and keep in games. And they conceded lots of possession, but they kept a clean sheet, so that'll be a positive for them. But they look disjointed. But so that's the sort of side of when they come back from Europe that you think they just want to go and get out a positive result and get on the bike and go, which is why we thought Newcastle would be in the same boat, having had the week they've had. Yeah. I think that when you look at it, what the point I was initially making was the fact that you've got these games that are so lopsided. There's obviously going to be lots of goals in them, and it's trying to pick out those ones that are tighter with sides that struggle to score goals. And there's not any of them. But also, I think you've got sides that are when they get a chance against a similar side, they've got to give it a bit more of a go because I think we've got Man City, we've got Tottenham, we've got Arsenal, we've got Liverpool next. We could get no points in these next 4 or 5 games, and we'll have a go at this one. And I think that does make them a little bit more open.
Going back to futures, Champions League now 5th favourites on the Bet Rivers site to win the Champions League are Barcelona 10-1 shot. Now there was a pick on the European show this week from Rui Barlow, Barcelona to win 2-0. And we were actually talking about the opening scorer for Celta Vigo in that game, Jurgen Strand Larsen. We both said this guy can't finish his dinner, and of course he got on the score sheet, didn't he? So yeah, that was typical. But they went into a 2-0 lead, did Celta, after 76 minutes, and I looked at that and I'm like, it's done, isn't it? They're going to lose this game. 3 goals in 8 minutes, 2 from Lewandowski for Barcelona in La Liga last night. I mean, it seems like there's a lot more belief, a bit more offense in Barcelona. I'm not sure how much of La Liga you've kind of watched this year, Jack. But are you in? You're to follow the Champions League moves there. 5th favourites now to win that. Did they convince you? Is Lewandowski the right man for them?
It's hard to knock against him, isn't he? Because you know what you're going to get. It's a striker that's been around the block and he scored so many goals that you think, well, they're a bit of a priceless commodity, but sometimes you shoehorn one into a side that needs someone with maybe a little bit more movement or a bit more finesse about them. This sounds a bit disrespectful, but he's a bit of a sledgehammer forward, isn't it? You'll give him a go and he'll score your goals. And
he's a very good flat track bully as well, which is a positive, by the way. I think there's an art to that.
Yeah. Well, when you're Barcelona, that's most games, isn't it? Let's face it. It's all bar probably 6 to 8 games in a season that you're going to want someone that can dominate a weaker side, and you give him a chance and he'll score a goal, or give him
latter stages of the Champions League. It's like, is he the big difference maker for them? I'm not convinced, but he may well prove me wrong here. They're actually the dog to win La Liga, plus 125 on Bet Rivers. Real Madrid minus 121. I mean, it's a 2-horse race, so you can pick your side there.
Big night tonight.
A long way to go. Big match tonight. Atletico Madrid against Real Madrid.
RJ's been teaching you a thing or two, isn't he?
Got to get these pronunciations right.
Pronunciations right, yeah.
on the Bet Rivers show. But big pick also for Rui Barlow in that game. We haven't checked it out. Do give the European show a watch. He's got a lean in the cards market for that match.
We like that.
It's quite hard to actually disagree with it, I must say. And a big game also in Italy later for Daniele Fisichella. I was looking at the stat sheets, and if both picks do win, we're going to actually have a tie.
Oh,
an exact tie.
Wow.
With
first time ever.
2 handicappers on the head-to-head record. So that's when the boss, Mr. Nigel Seeley, might have to get involved. There's even talk of a playoff midweek, because there's a midweek round in both Spain and Italy. But yeah, two interesting games to keep an eye on there, and an even bigger one.
Hang on, before you say that, I would say, Rory, I got a feel for him because I had Barcelona to win 2-0 last weekend, which they did. Their home record over the last 12 months has been sensational, isn't it? I know they're not playing at the new camp at the moment, but they conceded 4 goals last season, didn't they, all at home, which is incredible. And 2 of those came in one game. So their win to nil ratio last season was absolutely phenomenal. They've done it again this season. I think that I might have missed one, but they're certainly their first 2 at home ended winning to nil. So that's when your luck's out that these things happen. Obviously, we get these freak happenings, which makes our betting lives so much fun.
But I'll tell you how bad this Montpellier game's been second half. You can nearly get minus 130 on over 0.5 goals, and we're not even at the 70th minute yet. That is how poor the second half's been. I think I'm going to have to check the weather here because it looks hotter than I thought it would be. Although there's just been a penalty appeal for Montpellier, but Stephanie Frappart has waved it away. I've given this one up. I'm giving this one up anyway in terms of pre-game. All my focus is on the later evening game in Paris.
I was going to ask you about this. There's a huge game in Ligue 1 this evening, and obviously, as I was an avid listener last season to yours and James Eastham's Ligue 1 show, and I'm lucky enough to be sat here with you now with a huge game coming up tonight. So over to you. I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, yeah, I do explain it a bit more on the European show, but I'll do it again here. I do like PSG on the handicap. Not going to lie. I mean, it's a bit of a sickening one. Yeah, I'm a Marseille man, but they are in a mess. They're managerless right now. If you watch that European game on Thursday against Ajax, I mean, both teams were a tactical sort of an organisational disgrace. We've seen Ajax today. Their match has actually got abandoned at half-time against Feyenoord. 3-0 down. Their fans have just had enough. Throwing flares and everything on the pitch. So abandoned. I think they'll probably get the points, Feyenoord. But that just shows how bad Ajax are. And I don't think we can take too much from that performance from Marseille coming back against them. Fair play from 3-1 down. But Ajax are in just as bad a way right now. So I think PSG do it. Get the win comfortably. But now I'm looking actually at the goal line as well for this game, Jack, and that does kind of interest me. But again, books are not offering too much. It's minus money for over 3. You know, that's why I'd rather take the Asian handicap, because 3-0 PSG is quite possible. You could look at the team total for PSG over 2.5 goals.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what price that is. I think it probably is plus money.
Try and guess the minute Mbappe will score
plus 155. Plus 155 for over 2.5 PSG goals. I mean, we just seen how badly Marseille defended.
Yeah.
That's got to be, that might be the better bet, actually, because it covers for like 3-2, which is not out of the question. Marseille will be very emotional tonight, no doubt about it. And they'll give it everything, but there's no manager properly in place.
What's happening with the manager situation there? Because obviously I picked up on it a couple of weeks ago, obviously, where there was massive protests, there was lots going on and changing the manager. And then does this one, obviously it's like an interim manager at the moment, does he come in and kind of give the fans what they want, but do that tonight and you could be in serious trouble?
Yeah, I mean, Marcelino resigned. It wasn't a sacking. Actually, Marseille are actually unbeaten in Liga heading into this game. Everyone's kind of forgetting that. But there's so many problems off the field. The president situation, the fans want rid of certain board members. Look, it's just typically Marseille. I think to be a manager of Marseille, you need to be someone like a Marcelo Bielsa. You need to be someone who's very thick-skinned, someone who knows what they're dealing with. There's going to be a circus at times. There's been talk that Marseille need to bring in a French-speaking manager, a natural French-speaking manager, and I can't really argue against that. I think that better communication would be a good idea. You know, it would be interesting. Graham Potter was linked with the Lyon job, and he quite rightly turned them down. You don't want to be involved with Lyon, who was shocking last night again. But Graham Potter at Marseille would really be quite interesting. I must say, again, I don't think he'd be a right move for him. But
be interesting to see where he pops up next, because it's that big move for him, isn't it? Obviously, having had his stock was so high. And then it took a big knock at Chelsea, but we've seen what kind of shambles Chelsea are at the moment as well. And Pochettino has gone in there and struggled to get anything for them at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see any like Ligue 1 managers that you think might well be tempted from a sort of lower ranked club, you know, like a Will Still or someone like that.
I think the manager there's two managers I really like in France. Will Still's one of them, but I think he's still quite a young boss. He's got a lot to learn still. I think a move to Marseille now would be maybe he'd make it work. And I do like Frank Ice at Lens. They had a bad start to the year, but won today. Big win for them, late win. Now, I would have made a move for him in the summer, but it would have been very hard to tempt him away from guaranteed Champions League football. I do wonder if Lens did just have sort of a mediocre campaign, someone may well get Frank Ice next summer, but he seems really loyal and committed to the club. So, yeah, it's in terms of free agency. I don't know where Philippe Montagnier is now, ex-Toulouse boss. Got very harshly sacked. He won the French Cup with them.
Yeah.
Led them to a mid-table finish. They play nice football, Toulouse, under him. And I just wonder if he wouldn't be the worst option to the end of the season. He might actually be in management somewhere now. I don't actually know. But Philippe Montagnier would be, I think, not a bad appointment for Marseille. He's experienced. He's been around the block a bit, been to some big clubs. Like I said, I just think you either need some sort of wacky character like a Bielsa or just a steady hand who can, to steady this Marseille ship. I do think it's going to be a real struggle. It'd be a good game to watch though tonight, I think.
Yeah.
Get that on the box wherever you are in the world. There's going to be goals in the game. There's no doubt about that. I wouldn't be looking at unders, but I do worry for Marseille, unfortunately, mate. Yeah.
Montagnier is still without a job. That's what I just had a quick look for there. So he's up for grabs for someone. Should they want to take the plunge?
Betting we have I just someone's betting we should that might be the boss himself. Anything on the in play? We do. The Sheffield United Newcastle. Under 4.5 is what Jack suggested at half time at plus money, actually. But it's a difficult one. In terms of the Miss Montpellier game now, you can get over 0.5 goals at plus money. There was a big save just made by the Rennes goalkeeper, but it was offside. If you're looking at the stats of this game, you might think there's going to be a goal, but most of those shots were in the first half. So,
yeah, you've got always be careful with those in-play stats, eh? Can be deceiving.
Always got it. That's where you got to look at game flow. That's where a lot of people look at sites such as SofaScore, where you can see when the plan of action went. But it has just kicked off now. 2 minutes into the second half. Sheffield United against Newcastle. I think I actually agree with you, Jack. I think under 4.5 is more likely.
I think for me, the drivers here would be Sheffield United having that element of damage limitation about them, and Newcastle not necessarily needing.
That
could be anyone.
No. We don't want that, do we? What's going to happen to? We need him to get our pronunciations right, Jack. So,
indeed, so.
My
absolute legend.
Now,
what do you think of Frankfurt Freiburg? This Bundesliga game. Do you think there's a little bit of scope there?
No, I've watched whenever I watch Eintracht Frankfurt. I think they're more of an under team. And under teams never interest me in betting. I rule out even betting on certain teams' games because I know there's not going to be many goals in them.
Yeah,
I'm an overman, you see. So rather than bet the under, I just leave them alone. Nice, for example, in France, what I class. Yeah, you and Nigel would love them. I reckon they've got unders written all over them the way the style they play, but I hate that. So for Frankfurt, definitely fall into that. Whenever I've seen them, even the games that have had more goals, it just feels more steady. They're quite steady paced compared to most German teams. There's a lot of franticness goes on in the Bundesliga. But I'd get what's the goal line here? Let me have a look. It is 1.25 goal line. Between 1 and 1.25, which is quite low for the 49th minute in the German Bundesliga game. But that just shows you they are quite more defensively sounding. I think some other games are about to start as well.
Napoli's 0-0 at minute away at Bologna. 37 minutes on the clock there, just approaching half time. Right. So they're kind of needing a win to keep in touch, aren't they? Oh,
that's an interesting one. Roy.
Oh. Under 5.5 to bring home the sevenfold Acker.
Yes. So he's all right as long as he doesn't get another 3 goals in this game. He's all right, Roy.
But there's only one person who was more frustrated by the start there than me and Nigel, and that's that fella there on under 5.5. Thinking he was home and hosed.
Well, he would have put together a good. I don't know what the price there was pre-game, but when you're doing a 7-leg parlay, you expect bankers, don't you? I suppose.
Yeah.
But I know Nigel was enjoying some of the photos I was putting up earlier of the Nisdale show, and
you'd be a fool not
maybe
to
fancies one of those really prize bulls that have been on show there. But was there anything else I put on this?
I think you need to plug the Instagram account again. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, Instagram. Do follow this account. I'm going to put the link on again at Because We Win Instagram. These reels were really good, I must say. And I'm not, me, I'm quite a fussy person, but when I saw them, I was surprised when I didn't expect this was happening. So you kind of caught me out. Yeah, but I did enjoy. I loved them yesterday. Today, you've been nailing the correct scores. So, 4 out of 10, boys. That's most would do well. Get 1 out of 10.
Wow, I know, and that's why we are what we are, isn't it? Simply the best, because we win.
Because we win, yeah.
The odds I haven't got the odds actually that we put them up at, but my one would have been quite skinny yesterday. I think that would have been about 11-2, something like that in sort of English money. But the 2-2 today would probably been about 11, 12 to 1. I'd have thought 3 1s are normally around about 10, 12 to 1. So.
Cool. Depends on the book. I think it depends on the book, Roy. 17 match accumulator. It's 16.
There's a good reason. They don't win. Let down by 1.
I don't know. I can't remember the last time I had a 17-leg accumulator. Jack, what else has been saying here? Dan Roebuck. Big shout out to Dan Roebuck and an apology from me for Dan Roebuck as well. I don't know if anyone noticed this. I only noticed it this morning, but I did a post on the Because We Win account yesterday with the flags next to certain nationalities, and I put the Denmark flag somehow got next to Dan's name. I don't know how this happened. Purely on me, but it's
Roebuck.
Dan. Yeah, that might be where it came from on like an auto or something, but it's more like Dan Roebuckson, isn't it now?
Well, indeed.
So,
yeah. Well,
yeah. So
it's a sorry subject to bring up, Dan Roebuck. He's caused untold amounts of trouble this week with his flagrant flashing of body parts on the Premier League show. It's just simply something we're going to have to crack down on.
Yeah, I've just actually looked back at the results from last season's show because it's in my mind. Montpellier, Rennes. Both myself and James Easton also went over 2.5. Both of us on this same fixture last season. I think it was about April, and it ended, I think, 1-0, and we both lost there. I'm going to lose on this game today. Montpellier Rennes is a graveyard because don't know what it is. It randomly can happen sometimes where it looks like two offensive teams. It looks like the style matches up well for goals. Somehow the goals don't come. Now this can't be a fluke now, where a lot of fancying the goals between these two teams and they're not coming. So I need to work out what on earth is going on.
Again, I think sometimes that comes down to the fact that you've got a side that is renowned for being potent in the forward areas. The coaches are always going to put a hell of a lot of focus on nullifying those offensive threats. So yeah, possibly that's the situation there. And I've got players that can match up, and if someone's good aerially and you've got a good match up there, then say nullifies that threat to a certain degree. But no, interesting one, and shows the nature of you that you were able to flick up last season's results in a heartbeat.
Well, it's just my memory. I knew this game had cost us before. I knew, and there's certain fixtures that always. I'm sure you're saying that you don't have a good record in, and it did kind of remind me of that fact. It's one of those. Also, it kind of reinforces I always say, if you're going to bet in running at half time, you sometimes are better off waiting 5 or 10 minutes if you dare, because half time it did look like over 1.5 looked good.
Yeah.
Within 10 minutes of action, it was. I actually said under 1 goal, didn't I? And for me to even suggest an under, like I said.
Never be frightened to miss out on what turns out to be a winning bet on the basis that you can avoid a losing one. That's what I think. Like I say, there's always another opportunity round the corner. And don't rush in, because generally you might well regret that kind of haste, especially, let's say, things can change at half time. Like, coaches have got their teams in there 15 minutes, things can change. And it's important. But what was your score prediction? Talking of score predictions, you send it over. We'll get it on Instagram so you can join the fun. But what's your score prediction for the big game in Ligue 1 this evening?
I'm torn between 3-1 or 4-1 to PSG.
Yeah.
I'm going to go... that Marseille defence is so bad, isn't it? 4-1 to PSG.
4-1 PSG.
Here's a good question. Who wins the Euro head-to-head tonight? Who's my money on? All right, I will stick my neck. I definitely think Rory's pick's going to win. He only needs 6 cards in the Real game. I think that's not asking a lot. I mean, that could cover in the first half, knowing those two. A lot depends on the referee. I do quite like Daniele's pick as well. It's a little bit more complicated. It's the same game parlay. I'm pretty sure we're destined for a level. I think if both picks win...
Careful with them splinters, Steve.
I think both picks will win, and we're going to end up with a tie, and then God knows what happens. So we're almost destined for that, aren't we? I think Dan would quite enjoy that. He was telling me last night we could get an exact tie if both picks win on Sunday. So yeah, but if I had to stick my neck out, it's 4-0 to Newcastle now. Callum Wilson on the score sheet, shocking defending again from Sheffield United. If they defend like this, they're going straight back down to the Championship. I tell you, Jack, this is horrendous. There's some really poor teams down there at the bottom of the Premier League. But if I had to stick my neck on someone, it would be on Rory, just because I'm really confident in that pick. But I do like Daniele's as well. There was one thing I was going to say before we go. Yes. Yeah, a bit of fun here, Jack. So, as you may well know, we are moving straight into... It's the NFL starts, 6 p.m. 1 p.m. Eastern Seaboard. Games starting very, very soon. And we had RJ on the show last week. He generously gave us a pick.
Yes.
On the NFL with 49ers. It was a controversial push, I think, in the end.
Ooh.
So I'm just looking at the game lines now. We've got some tasty clashes coming up. I might be having an eye on the Indianapolis Colts against Baltimore Ravens. I'm a bit of a Ravens man. The point spread there is at 7.5. But I quite like the overs there, over 43.5 points. But I do want to point everyone in the direction of any NFL content on the Bet Rivers YouTube, the main Bet Rivers YouTube channel. So check that out. There's loads of plays for the weekend. And I know you might have a cheeky NFL lean for us somewhere. There's one more question here. Who finishes bottom? Based on this, Sheffield United. Like, Luton were all right yesterday, I thought. Could
their issues have scored one goal from open play, haven't they? They need to find something there. But the big couple of games coming up for them now. We touched on it in the Premier League show during the week. They have now got Burnley and Everton, Luton. So Burnley.
I'm just looking if there is a market on Bet Rivers to finish bottom. There was one pre-season. The value may well be on. In fact, they've actually taken down the relegation market in running. Maybe that's how bad Sheffield United.
Sheffield United, it was frantically. Yeah, we need to reprice this.
But I think Luton will be favourites to be bottom. They're going to go down, aren't they? Realistically, I mean, I like the project they've got going there, but it's asking a lot for them to actually stay up unless they invest. I don't think they've got the investment. Sheffield United had looked all right. Might just be one bad day. Newcastle can play football on their day. I'm going to say Sheffield United myself. I'll put my neck on the line there. Sheffield United finished bottom of the Premier League.
Okay,
but Wolves, and maybe a chance. Yeah, that will do it for this show, then, Jack. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Time's flown by, mate. Enjoyed it muchly.
The NFL, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll leave the experts, some great experts on the Bet Rivers YouTube.
I'll keep my 17-game NFL parlay private.
Good one. He's going to let RJ free if we cash on the PSG match. Yeah. Let's hope we get three good winners later on from the European show. All eyes on Paris, all eyes on Madrid, and all eyes on Torino as well.
Thoughts with RJ?
Take care, everyone. Remember to gamble responsibly, and best luck wherever you're taking. Watch out for more content this week on the Because We Win channel, both soccer and tennis. And one final plug for this, the Because We Win Instagram page. Do give us a follow on there. It takes nothing at all. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next time. Goodbye. Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you, Steve. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Cheers all.